All right, guys, welcome back. All right, guys, welcome back. Bruce Neil here with Bullish Currency. So today we're going to go over some basics, right? I mean, probably the most important basics to really master, right? As you go along your journey as a trader, these are things you want to really practice and really hone in and master, like ASAP, right? So today's video is going to be on specifically support and resistance. Okay, support and resistance. Now we're going to go over support first. So remember, we already created our trading view account. All right, we know that when we click on chart, a chart pops up. We know that we can change the chart to whatever we want to look at right here. We know that trading view is just a website people use to look at charts to do analysis on different things, stocks, currency pairs, cryptos, whatever they want to look at that has a chart, they can do their analysis here on TradingView. So that's what TradingView is, guys. All right, so you already have your account, you're already logged in. Now, when you go to chart and you type in whatever chart you want to look at, it pops up. So right now we are looking at US 30, which actually represents the Dow Jones. This is actually the Dow Jones. US 30 meaning the US top 30 stocks. And these are like the best of the best 30 companies, right, put together to make this index. So you got the Dow Jones, right? I'm sure you guys heard of Dow Jones in the news all the time, right? I know at one point, guys, I used to be like, who the hell is Dow Jones, right? But okay, so here we go, right? Dow Jones. So remember, guys, on the left-hand side, we have our toolbar here. Okay, so when we identify our support and resistance, which, you know, to make it a little bit easier, let's just look at the support word as another word for floor, right? For a bottom, for a floor. And then let's look at the word resistance as a ceiling, right? As a ceiling, right? Because anything that has a ceiling has to have a floor, and same thing vice versa, right? So the market is no different. There's going to be ceilings and floors. There's going to be resistance and supports all over the place. So you have to learn how to identify them, right? So on the left-hand side, remember I told you we're going to have all these tools here. There's a tool called Trendline. When you click on the little arrow, you get more options. Now, you're going to use the horizontal line in order to draw your resistance, aka your ceiling, in order to draw your support, aka your floor. You're going to need the horizontal line. Okay, boom. So now I have my horizontal line. Okay, now you can actually, you know, click anywhere and your line pops up, and then a menu pops up right here where you can change the thickness, the color, etc. You can do whatever you want, right? I mean, that's just preference. So now that we're here, right, I'm going to identify, right, if we're looking at this part of the chart right here, I got to identify where my ceiling is. So you see the candlesticks are going up and down. This is basically the movement of the current value of whatever we're looking at. In this case, the Dow Jones. So the value is always going up and down, up and down, up and down, right? But as you can see, it's starting to really drop right now, this specific day. But no matter what, when it starts to make its up and down movements, it starts to create structure. It starts to create a ceiling and a floor, a resistance and a support. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to identify our support level, okay? We're going to try to identify our support level. Okay, so if we were right here, we click, we drew our line, we can drag it wherever we want. We're going to look for our floor. So that's just like where we see the candlesticks going up and down, right? So where does it seem to have consistently come to and kind of bounce off of as if there was an imaginary floor there? And you can clearly see with your own eyes, we have one right here, two, three, right? Three times it touched this imaginary floor and actually bounced off of it, right? As if there was really something there, right? A real wall. This is just a price is like a ball, right? Bouncing off of walls. So it bounced off the wall here, boom, bounce off. If you threw a ball at your floor now, and depending on how hard you throw it, right, it's gonna bounce off and go towards the ceiling, right? So that's what happened. It bounced off, and then it came, and history repeated itself, and bounced off again, and then history repeated itself again, and it bounced off again, right? So now we can capitalize on being able to predict where the market's going. So understanding support is very important. Understanding resistance, which is your ceiling, is very important. So now that we have our floor, our support, Now let's look for a resistance, right? Where does it seem to have come to multiple times and bounce off of as if there was an imaginary ceiling there? Now, a lot of times there's basically many small little resistance levels, small support levels in between, right? And you also have the major obvious one, right? So in this case, we have a major obvious one right there, right? Because price seems to have come up here, you know, quite a few times already, right? Once, right? Twice, 3 times, right? And bounced off this imaginary ceiling, which is also called a resistance. So now look, that's how you draw your support and your resistance. You identify where price seems to have bounced off of an imaginary floor level, and then find the same thing for an imaginary ceiling level. That's your resistance, and then that's your support, and you draw a horizontal line, whatever thickness and color you want, on that very spot. So now I have it identified. Now, why is it good to have it identified? Because, for example, right, let's say, you know, this right here happened, and this is where we are in the market. None of the rest happened yet. And I drew my line. I drew my line here because I have a resistance, and I drew my line here because I have a support level, right? Okay, let's say the market's moving as time's going, right? As time is going, the market's moving. Boom. If I had this line already drawn, I already identified my ceiling, my resistance, and my floor, my support. And in the future, I see the candlesticks approaching my line that I drew as a floor level. I'm already thinking it's probably going to bounce off of here, like as if there was an imaginary floor there. And that's exactly what happened twice. Same thing in the future with our ceiling. I have my ceiling already drawn out. So now when I see this thing come up here, I'm already thinking it's probably going to react like it did last time. It's probably going to bounce off this imaginary ceiling. And it did, right? Multiple times. So that's why it's very important to sit and practice drawing your support and your resistance on as many charts as you like, because you can always come back. You know, TradingView is not going to erase your lines. You can come back, look at it, see what it looks like, see what happened, see how the candlesticks, you know, reacted off of your support resistance. And that's how you get better at drawing it and better. Even though it sounds simple and it looks simple, this is still something you literally should be doing every single week, and maybe every other day or every day for some people, drawing your support resistance and just looking at it and seeing what happens with the candlesticks around your levels. So guys, that's pretty much it for support and resistance, okay? So now I'm gonna show you trend. All right, we're gonna go over trend, okay? Now, support, resistance, that's basics. Now there's also called your trend, right? Support, resistance, and trend. Trend is also basics, okay? Trend is also basics. It's also something that you really wanna make sure you practice, that you draw your lines, and that you get familiar with it as much as possible. So on the same left-hand toolbar, guys, you're gonna click on the options. You're actually gonna use the one that's called trend line. That's the one you're gonna use. And when you click on it, wherever you click, it's gonna pop up and you just extend it to where you wanna go. So when I wanna draw my trend, let's just say this is where we are in the market right here. When I wanna draw my trend, I'm looking for a low point and a high point so I can start. So for this example, I found a low point right here. I'm gonna click right there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna extend the line forward, and I'm gonna make sure I go right underneath the next low point, which is right there, right here. And I'm just gonna extend it. After that, I'm just gonna extend it. That's all I'm gonna do. Just gonna extend it, okay? And then that's it. And I did that on the bottom side, right? I found the low point and I connected the bottom sides. So I want you to see how when you draw your trend line, just like your support resistance, it's like an imaginary line that price seems to bounce off of, right? So look, you had your first point here, second point here, and then of course it came down again, bounced off your trend line, bounced off again, and bounced off again, right? So it's like an imaginary wall. That's basically how I look at these. Like imaginary wall, it's there, and price just bounces off of it. So it's very important to get familiar with drawing trend, but you're also going to do it to the top side. right? So you're gonna find a high point, could use any one of these if they're really that close to each other, right? And you're just gonna go straight ahead like last time, okay? Straight ahead like last time, all right? So now look at that. I connected the high points, the first two high points, and I just went straight across. And look at that, guys. So let's just say we are right here in the market. We're right here in the market, right? And we drew our trend, okay? And let's just say as the market moves, we're keeping an eye on it, all right? We're keeping an eye on it. Guys, when it got right here on your trend line, you would automatically be thinking that the same thing's gonna happen like it did in the past twice already, multiple times. It's gonna bounce off this imaginary wall, and it sure did, guys. It sure did. Boom. Right? That's money right there. Just being able to predict a direction equals money. And look how basics alone can help you do that. Because look at that. It came back down to the bottom of the bottom side of your trend line, and what happened? It shot up, right? So drawing trend lines, support and resistance are probably the most important things to master. That's my philosophy. Mastering the basics is really the best thing you can do to be a real successful trader. Mastering just the basics. All right. So support, resistance, and trend, guys. Now the same thing goes either direction. So now when I identify my trend, it's also telling me a direction the market's going, right? So as you can see, the trend is pointing upwards. So that's an uptrend. Simple, right? If the trend's pointing upwards, it's an uptrend. Okay. If there's higher highs, like each little mountain peak, each high is getting higher, that's an uptrend. If each low point is getting higher, just like you see right here, that's an uptrend. And it's the same thing the other way around, right? It's the same thing the other way around. There's downtrends, right? So here we go. Okay. If I want to identify a trend starting from, let's say I was up here somewhere, right? I just go ahead and draw my line, right? Straight down. And I could do the same thing for the bottom here. I'm going to look for a bottom, and I'm just going to draw my line. Wait, 1 second. Let me fix this. Right? So sometimes the trend lines are going to be perfect. Sometimes it'll be a little sloppy. It is what it is. You really just want to get the general idea. So if we weren't here, like before it really collapsed, if we were just here, we would be noticing that the high points are getting lower and that the low points are getting lower. That's a downtrend. We also notice the trend that we drew is pointing downwards. That's a downtrend. So same scenario here, guys, right? Your trend, we drew your trend lines, and as you can see, it respected as some imaginary wall. So if you already have your trend line drawn and you saw price come and touch the bottom trend line, you would automatically be thinking it's probably going to deflect, it's probably going to bounce off, make some kind of reaction. And that's exactly what happened before it eventually just broke right through the trend, which also happens. And we're going to get into that on the next videos, guys. But hopefully this makes sense. If you have to rewatch how to draw a trend line and support resistance, if you have to watch this video more than once, there's nothing wrong with that. But we're definitely also going to have Q&A calls where you can ask questions for just someone live and get answered, and examples and all that stuff. And you also have a community chat where you can ask questions as well if you need help with any of this stuff. But definitely watch this video more than once, and actually really just go on your own trading view and just draw it yourself. And just keep messing around with it. Keep drawing it and seeing how it looks the next day. All right, guys, that's it. Again, I'm Bruce Neil with Bullish Currency, and I will see you on the next video.